Good morning, student. This is your teacher Neela Mahlawat, and I hope you are revising your chapters thoroughly. So we'll continue our revision. This is our lecture number 2 of the chapter number 16, and we are revising this chapter, right? The chapter is digestion and absorption. Now, yesterday I'm just revising it back from wherever we have left yesterday. We know that the food from your mouth will enter into the esophagus, and from esophagus it will enter into your stomach. So basically the stomach has 4 parts. Okay, earlier we have spoken about that the stomach has 3 parts, but the latest edition of your NCERT shows that the stomach has 4 parts. So we'll be remembering it as that the stomach has 4 parts. First is fundus, second is cardiac region, third is body, and the fourth is pyloric. Okay, so the stomach can be divided into 4 basic parts: fundus, cardiac, body, and pyloric. Okay, then coming to the next portion, that is the wall of the alimentary canal, that is from esophagus to rectum. So the wall of your alimentary canal will consist of 4 layers, right? It will be composed of the 4 layers. The outermost layer is the serosa. Then the second layer is called muscularis, and third layer is called submucosa, and fourth is mucosa. So your first outermost layer is serosa, then is a muscularis, third is submucosa, and fourth is mucosa. So all you can say wall of your alimentary canal, it is surrounded by 4 layers, and that I've talked about. Now this serosa, which is your outermost layer, this layer is made up of mesothelium. Okay, this is made up of mesothelium, and it contains some amount of connective tissue. The second layer, which is muscularis, it is made up of smooth muscle cells. Okay, it is made up of smooth muscle cells, and it can be arranged in the form of inner circular and outer longitudinal layer. So your muscularis layer, which is made up of smooth muscles, it can be divided into 2 main categories, that is your inner circular, outer longitudinal layer, right? Is it clear? Then comes your submucosa. This layer is made up of loose connective tissue. Okay, submucosa, it is made up of loose connective tissue containing it also contains blood and lymph vessels. Then the innermost layer is called mucosa. The innermost layer is called the mucosa, and this layer, the innermost layer, it contains several folds. As you can see in the picture, it contains several folds. Okay, everyone, this is these several folds, and these several folds in the case of stomach, they are referred to as finger-like projections, which are called the villi. Okay, these are referred to as villi in case of stomach. Now let's observe the structure of the villi. The lining of the villi produces numerous microscopic projections which also contain microvilli. So villi in turn contains microvilli. Okay, villi in turn contains microvilli, and because of the presence of villi and microvilli, the surface area increases tremendously. Okay, the surface area of the intestinal mucosa, it increases a number of times. And these villi, they are richly supplied with blood. First, they increase the surface area. Secondly, they are richly supplied with blood. Okay, they are richly supplied with blood. And your mucosal epithelium, it contains goblet cells. What it contains? Goblet cells, and these secrete mucus which help in the lubrication, which makes your passage smooth. Okay, which makes your passage smooth. Okay. Now this mucosa, it will form glands in case of stomach. Like as I told you, this mucosal goblet cells, they will secrete mucus, and this mucosa layer, as I was talking about, this mucosa layer, it will form glands in case of stomach. The stomach, there will be gastric glands, and in case of small intestine, they are called as crypts of Labakan. Okay, they are referred to as crypts of Labakan. Okay, clear? So where are gastric glands present? Gastric glands are present in the stomach, and the crypts of Leviken, they are present in the intestine. Where are villi and microvilli present? They are again present in the intestine. And what are the functions of microvilli and villi? First of all, they increase the surface area, and secondly, they are richly supplied with blood. So this helps in transportation. Coming to the digestive glands which are associated with this, with our alimentary canal. As we have spoken yesterday, that your digestive system is made up of two parts. One is the alimentary canal and second is the digestive glands. So there are three main important digestive glands. First is salivary glands, second is liver, and third is the pancreas. Okay, let's talk about these glands individually. We know that salivary glands, they produce saliva. Okay, salivary glands, they produce saliva. And this saliva is produced by three glands. One is parotid gland, which is present in the cheeks. Submaxillary gland, second is submaxillary gland. And third is your sublingual gland, which is present below your tongue. And all these three together make up the saliva, and this saliva is then released into the buccal cavity. Second is the liver. See students, liver is the largest gland of the body, and its weight is approximately 1.2 to 1.5 kg. And it is situated in the abdominal cavity, just below your diaphragm, and it has two lobes. So liver basically consists of two lobes. Okay, it is made up of two lobes, and these hepatic lobes, they are the structural and functional units of livers. So what are the structural and functional unit of liver? The hepatic lobes. Okay, the hepatic lobe. Each lobe is covered by a thin connective tissue which is called Glissen's capsule. So your lobule is surrounded by Glissen's capsule. Okay, it is surrounded by Glissen's capsule, and liver produces a secretion which is called bile, and this bile is then stored into the gallbladder. Okay, this is stored into the gallbladder. Okay everyone, so this is stored into the gallbladder. Coming to the pancreas. Pancreas basically is both. You can see this pink portion, it is your pancreas, this pink portion. Okay, and this green portion is your gallbladder, where your bile salts, they will be stored, and this bile salts which are stored in the gallbladder, they will be released through the common hepatic duct. Okay, they will be released into the with the help of the common hepatic duct into the portion which is called duodenum. Right? Now coming to the pancreas, the leaf-like structure which are there. Pancreas is basically a compound you can say gland. It has both exocrine and endocrine part. It has both endocrine as well as you can say exocrine part. Means it also produces certain hormones, and it also help in transportation of the hormones, right? So it is both exocrine also and endocrine also. And it produces the pancreas, they produce a pancreatic juice, and that pancreatic juice contains the enzymes like trypsin and lipase, which help in the digestion of the food. And this endocrine portion, it releases the hormones like insulin and glucagon. So your pancreas, it is a mixed gland, it is a compound gland which has both endocrine and exocrine part. Endocrine part will release the you can say pancreatic juice. It helps in the preparation of pancreatic juice, while the endocrine part will produce the hormones, while the exocrine part, it will produce the pancreatic juice which contains the enzymes for its digestion. Now coming to the digestion of food. How is food digested? Now digestion of food is both a mechanical and a chemical process. So two processes it will be involved. One is a chemical, another is a mechanical process. Now first of all, when you put your food in your mouth, so it enters your buccal cavity. In the buccal cavity, your teeth will tear the food, isn't it? This is called mastication of food, right? So your teeth will tear it, right? Bite it, tear it. Then tongue will mix with saliva and it will help in swallowing it up. So your food will then reach into the esophagus, and these small particles which are moved from the mouth into the esophagus, they are called as bolus. Okay, then this bolus, it passes to the pharynx, right? And the swallowing is also called, swallowing is called by another name which is called deglutition. What is called? Deglutition. So sometimes they may ask you what is deglutition. So that is nothing but the swallowing of food. Okay, small portion of the food that is swallowed is called the bolus, and the swallowing of bolus is referred to as deglutition or swallowing. Now this bolus, it will pass through your esophagus with the help of peristaltic movements, as we have discussed yesterday. So peristaltic movements, and then it will enter the stomach, right? And we've talked about, then in your mouth saliva is also present, and this saliva helps contains enzyme which is called salivary amylase, and it also contains lysozymes. So salivary amylase, they will start digesting the carbohydrates and convert them into sugar. Lysozyme, it will kill the bacteria which are present in the food. So lysozymes, they will kill the bacteria that will present in the food. So in your mouth, approximately 30% of the carbohydrates will be digested. Okay, 30% of carbohydrates will be digested. So starch that we are eating, the carbohydrate that we are eating, will be acted upon by the salivary amylase and will be converted into maltose. So that is 30% will be there. So 30% of your carbohydrates, they will be converted into maltose in your mouth itself. Okay, as I told you, they will convert into your mouth itself. Now your stomach contains, as the food reaches into the stomach, your stomach contains the gastric glands, and these gastric glands basically have three major types of cells. First is your mucous neck cells, second is your chief cells, and third is your oxyntic cells. Your mucous cells, they will secrete mucus. Your peptic cells, they will secrete an enzyme which is called pepsinogen, right? Pepsinogen, it is an inactive form, and once the food will enter, then your pepsinogen will be converted into pepsin by the HCl. So your parietal will will secrete HCl, and because of the secretion of the HCl, the environment in the stomach is acidic. So what is the environment like? It is an acidic. So your your gastric glands, they produce a gastric juice, and that juice contains three things. One is mucus, second is pepsin enzyme, and third is your HCl. Now in your stomach, the food will remain here for 4 to 5 hours. So you can say your food will be thoroughly mixed with the gastric juice. Okay, for how much time the food will be present in the stomach? So the food will be present for 4 to 5 hours, and it will you can say it will be thoroughly mixed with the gastric juice, right? And it will result in the formation of a chyme, right? It will result in the formation of chyme. So because of the presence of HCl, your pepsinogen enzyme, which is an inactive form, will be converted into pepsin, which is an active form. Now this pepsin, it will act upon the proteins and convert them into proteoses and peptones. Okay, it will be converted into proteoses and peptones. HCl maintains a pH of 1.8. The pH in your stomach is approximately 1.8, and this is absolutely optimum for the action of pepsin enzyme. Along with this, there is another enzyme which is called renin. Now this renin, it helps in digestion of milk proteins. Okay, it helps in the digestion of milk proteins. Next comes is your bile, your pancreatic juice, and the intestinal juice. Bile is being produced by the liver, pancreatic juice is being produced by the pancreas, and intestine is producing a juice which is called intestinal juice. The intestinal juice is also called as succus entericus. Okay, and all the bile and the pancreatic juice, they are passed into the duodenum with the help of hepatopancreatic duct. Your pancreatic juice, it contains two enzymes specifically. One is trypsin, another is lipase, and both they are in the form of inactive form, and they have to be activated. the bile which is released in, again bile is also released into the duodenum. It contains two pigments, bilirubin and biliverdin, right? And along with this also contains some salts, cholesterol and phospholipids, but there are no enzymes. So your bile juice, it turns the medium alkaline, okay, because in your stomach the medium is acidic, and in your you can say intestine, your stomach is alkaline. So this alkaline nature is being provided by your bile salts, okay, and this brings about emulsification of fat. Your bile salts, they bring about emulsification of fat, means your fat molecules, they will be converted into small fat globules, okay, they will be converted into small fat globules. Then coming to your intestine, now food as it passes into the duodenum, and we know duodenum is a part of intestine. So all the components along with the bile, the enzymes, they will reach the small intestine, that is the duodenum part. So your intestinal epithelium, it contains goblet cells, and these goblet cells, they also secrete mucus, okay, they also secrete mucus, right? Along with this, the intestinal juice is also being produced, which is called succus entericus, and this juice contains a variety of enzymes like your maltase, dipeptidases, lipases, nucleosidases, okay. So all these enzymes, they are present in the intestinal juice, which is also called as succus entericus, right? They're also called as succus entericus. Now first of all, coming to your stomach, in stomach what will happen? Proteins will be acted upon by the peptones and proteases and will be converted into dipeptides, right? Okay. Then your you can say your pancreatic amylase, it will act on polysaccharides and convert them into disaccharides. Then your fats, they will be acted upon by the lipase and will be converted into diglycerides and monoglycerides. Okay, they will be converted finally into monoglycerides. Okay. Then in case of intestine, as I told, it contains large number of enzymes. So the very first enzyme is dipeptidases, which will act on dipeptides and convert them into amino acids. Maltose will be split into glucose and glucose. Lactose again, glucose and galactose. Sucrose will be converted into glucose and fructose. There are two basic enzymes which are called nucleotidases and nucleosidases. They will act upon nucleotides and nucleosides and convert them into sugar and bases. Diglycerides and monoglycerides, they will be acted upon by the lipases and convert them into fatty acids and glycerol. Now the very important thing that we have to note, proteins have the smallest component, amino acids. Carbohydrate has a small component, glucose, okay, and your fats have the smallest component as fatty acids and glycerol. Dear students, our body can utilize the smallest component, okay. Amino acids our body can use, glucose can be used, fatty acid, glycerol can be used. So with this, the digestion process is completed. Okay, in case of your large intestine, it does not have any digestive activity will not be taking place here, but the two very important functions will be occurring here. First is water will be absorbed, so maximum absorption of water, minerals and certain drugs. Second is the secretion of mucus. It will also be producing mucus, which will help in combining the waste materials together, right? It will help in combining the waste materials together so that it can be easily removed out of the body. And the undigested food, the unabsorbed food, they will be removed out from the body in the form of feces, right? In the form of feces through the anus. And this process is called a defecation, right? We call it as defecation. So whatever food we have eaten, the body will utilize whatever could be utilized, and whatever portion is left, that will be considered a waste for the body, and that portion will be removed out of the body. Okay, everyone? So the only one work that you have, that you revise this chapter thoroughly for the exams. Okay, revise this chapter thoroughly. Okay, everyone? Okay, bye.